Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you had a nice break, got some coffee, got some water, used the facilities. We have a great conversation coming up right now. This is a conversation on the Global Tech Security Commission. Please welcome to the stage Michelle Giuda, Executive Director of the Krach Institute for Tech Diplomacy.
Good morning. At the Krach Institute for Tech Diplomacy at Purdue, we believe that technology must advance freedom. So that's why I'm so pleased to introduce to you two transformational leaders who serve as co-chairs of our Global Tech Security Commission, Kersti Kaljulaid and Keith Krach. Kersti Kaljulaid is a former president of Estonia and a past chair of the 3Cs initiative. After her presidency, she served as the global advocate for the United Nations Every Woman, Every Child strategy on the health and well-being of women, children, and adolescents worldwide. President Kaljulaid was also the first Estonian to be selected by Forbes as one of the world's 100 most influential women. Keith Krach is the chairman of the Krach Institute for Tech Diplomacy at Purdue. He previously served as the Undersecretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment. As America's top economic diplomat, he became the highest-ranking State Department official to visit Taiwan in 41 years and brokered the $12 billion deal that brought Taiwan's chip giant, TSMC, to the US. During his tenure, he and his team built the Clean Network Alliance of Democracies, which defeated the Chinese Communist Party's plan to control 5G. Prior to his public service, Keith was the chairman and CEO of DocuSign and Ariba. Please welcome to the stage President Kaljulaid and Chairman Krach.
Well, Kersti, thanks for joining me today. And, I first got to know Kersti in government when she was president of Estonia and the 3Cs, and really was a great champion for us, a great partner for us in developing the trust doctrine and building the Clean Network Alliance of Democracies. So now I'm honored to serve with you as co-chairs of the Global Tech Security Commission, which we've been chartered to develop the Global Tech Security Strategy for the free world. We've got about 50 commissioners representing 15 countries, 12 tech sectors. And Kersti, one of the things that you said when you came on board was we must win. We have to win. So tell us a little bit about that. And also, what are the things that the Global Tech Security Commission can do to really advance that cause?
Yeah, thank you indeed. We in Estonia have felt long time that we need to have a kind of common ground. It may be supported by various standards all over the world, but we have to have a common ground. Lithium matters, but data matters even more. And we must make sure that we control our data, that nobody's doing to our data what we do not know, and which is therefore a grey area for us. Otherwise, the free world risks to be taken over. And it's been very important to both you and me, I believe, and that's why we are partnering in this great initiative, is that we need to get the global free world act together to make sure that we will win. And the problem, of course, is that we do not know how many ways we have to win, because, the tech cycle is so short, the legal cycle is longer, political cycle can be tiresome in these conversations. But we know that new technologies are coming forward all the time. And the difference is that in Western world, we do not know where they happen. And the biggest investment happens in private sector. So we need to onboard these technologies. Whereas China still invests big time and controls, like in developing the nuclear arms last century. China has similar level of control. They don't need to onboard anything. I believe we have therefore a richer ground to choose from, but we need to know how to do this thing. And also I think that the Starlink and Elon Musk example in Ukraine is a great demonstration that it's not only with China we need to discuss, but with our own big companies as well.
Well, you are absolutely right, Kersti. The reality we face in the free world is one of ceaseless intense variations of weaponized techno-economic competition. You look at our authoritarian rivals like Russia and China. They're playing a four-dimensional game of diplomatic, economic, and military, cultural chess, and technology is at the crossroads. And they have very, very little respect for things like integrity, reciprocity, transparency, respect for rule of law, property, sovereignty of nations, human rights, the environment. And these are things that we honor in the free world. But
Absolutely. Everything is
don't.
dual use nowadays. Everything is dual use. This is very important, I believe.
Absolutely. So talk to us about the importance of trusted technology, because that was one of the things, that in my first 60 bilaterals as Under Secretary of State, with my foreign counterparts like finance ministers, foreign ministers, I'd say, how's your relationship with China? And they would say, well, they're an important trading partner. And it seemed like almost every time they look around the room like somebody was in there, they lean in and they go, but we don't trust them.
Yeah, in my country, it's like front door is closed because Estonia is an EU country, and if you apply EU rules properly, Chinese capital is not coming to your place. You know why? Because we have competition rules, that has to be free market, and also procurement rules. China always wants basically to steal your economy. So they are not very kind of successful there. But on the other hand, if you think of greed building, then because big companies both in Europe and in America, work very well with Chinese tech. I once had somebody, when people were discussing about China, Chinese technology, Huawei, everything, one guy from Germany got up and said, well, Huawei is full of my technology. This is where this kind of entanglement really happens, and it's more difficult to get rid of that than just, to apply trade rules and all this. By the way, to be successful even there, to, keep the trade at bay, I think we need to put great attention on the free world, free trade. I know it can be a rude word, but think about it. How exactly do you get German dependence from Chinese market away if it's 10% there? Rest of the Europe is less free for, but still. I think the only way is to give more trading opportunities with this wonderful market here, and not to be afraid to speak about, that there has to be a certain level of trade-off. This is very, very important.
You're absolutely right. And I think that's particularly the case with Germany. And I know right now, top of mind in Germany, I'm heading over there tomorrow to meet with Deutsche Telekom. My good friend Tim Hodge is the CEO over there. This whole issue about trusted 5G systems, and as a global CEO, I've always respected Germany's standards for quality, precision, security, privacy, and as an American with German roots, I always respected the wisdom in their Article 1 of their basic law, which basically is 2 words: human dignity, and that's the number one mission of the state in Germany. And right now they're dealing with these. When you look at companies like Huawei, it's the backbone of the surveillance state, enables genocide, and these are tools that the worst of dictators could have dreamed of. And it's up to the German people to decide on this, but to have them go along with the rest of the majority of the countries in NATO and the EU, I think is really important. So maybe talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you've done in Estonia.
First, I really agree that, social scoring is something which should actually scare European and American companies away from cooperating with Chinese, because it's a straightforward violence of privacy rights of anybody. Of course, I'm not even speaking about Russia, because they are downright genocidal right now, and this is really and truly, truly horrible what is happening in Ukraine. But 10 years ago, if you said somebody, we cannot trade with Russia because, they are turning more and more authoritarian, they are risk, and we need to spend ourselves more on defense if we enrich them and allow them to build an army. Everybody said, no, that's not possible. Today, everybody says, yeah, it's very possible not to trade with Russia. But China, that's a different story. And that's why we actually need to get into really quickly into standardizing now the 5G and other connective and also, I would say, predictive technologies which we have. I think they are ripe for kind of standardization processes, because if you do it too early in innovation cycle, you stifle innovation. But they are ripe now to actually to be done so. And I think Europe normally takes the lead. But also what we've seen with GDPR, it has been kind of voluntarily acceptable for the global market in digital technologies to a certain extent. And this might be a good way forward to actually try to push where Europe does things best, which is kind of privacy and safety regulations, simply because Europe is ahead in one tech aspect from US, and that's GovTech, providing government services online to its citizens. I mean, Estonia does it 100% online. Some others do, like Portugal, Denmark, quite similar levels. Some are less there, but everybody has plans. It's actually in the EU legislation that trusted identity, which is, by the way, of the beginning point of trust towards kind of online services, is a human right in Europe. So we are doing a lot there, and I would advise us to cooperate on that, because I understand this kind of global services market, even for public services in this country, is extremely fractured and based only on private sector identification tools, which is materially wrong, because this is passport rights. Passport rights for private people online belong to government. Government have to provide them, secure them, and this is where we could cooperate most for the best grassroots security enhancement also in this country. And it will make citizens more resilient, because they would then understand that there are indeed tools to keep them safe online, because with digital ID comes encrypted channel. You don't get booking to send you advertisement if you have done something on an encrypted channel. And people really need this.
You're absolutely right. You know, I'm very proud to be an E-resident of Estonia.
Congratulations.
Thank you. When we were building DocuSign, we studied the country of Estonia because it was so digitized and automated. And if you think about some of these things that are going on right now in this whole area of cybersecurity, Estonia has a NATO Center of Excellence in cybersecurity. And one of the things that we're doing at the Krach Institute is we're working with NATO for building a tech security center of excellence. Tell us some of the things that this center of excellence in Estonia does.
Yeah. First and foremost, it's been a really rich ground for understanding where we legally stand. I mean, on that academic work, several countries have actually based on their declarations on how they see their legal action and position in a cyber conflict, because after all, we are nations who pride ourselves of being fair and applying rule of law. So people often don't think about it, but there is kind of no common understanding how far you can go to, take out somebody who is hitting your government service managing systems, for example. When are you actually not in a safe and secure ground to go and take out a foreign agent? What if it's a government agent? Are you causing a war? Are you causing an Article 5 situation, with that? Or is it already an Article 5 situation because cyber is a domain according to NATO? Then you have these situations where the country where the attack comes denies that they have anything doing in it. By this, they are defining themselves as digitally failed state. Do you then have different rights to go and do things there? This is an often ignored part of cybersecurity, because technologically we can do a lot, but then there is always the question, are we within the legally kind of strong realms that we can really keep doing it? But of course there is quite a lot of tech cooperation. We have the world's biggest cyber exercise takes place also in Estonia. And all horror scenarios over the years have been played out there, keeping allied nations on the same ground of thinking, what the risks really are and what could be done to feel safe and be safe. And if you think about it, nothing too serious has happened to any NATO systems. This demonstrates that the Center of Excellency is providing some level of excellency.
I think that's really astounding, and I also think a great role model for us at the Krach Institute as we build the Tech Security Center of Excellence. One of the other big things that we're doing in the Global Tech Security Commission, getting back to your previous point, is this area of trusted standards, trusted tech standards. As a matter of fact, Audrey Tang, one of our commissioners, who's Minister of Digital Affairs, is chairing that, and we'll be putting a certification center there at the Krach Institute. And one of the big things, we'll treat this as the last question, is when Putin had his bloody invasion of Ukraine, hundreds of global companies around the world came out of there. They lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, hundreds of billions of dollars. With everything going on in China Xi's crackdown on the private sector and all those kind of things. If something similar happens with regard to China, you're talking 20 to 30x the impact on the private sector. And a few months ago, I penned an article in Fortune that said, present your China contingency plan at the next board meeting. And because of that, we've been getting a lot of requests. What does a China contingency plan look like? Do you have a checklist? Because the fiduciary duty of a board member is to mitigate risk for their shareholders. What are you seeing in Europe, and what are your recommendations to these corporate boards when it comes to a China contingency plan and risk mitigation?
Well, the first thing is to really make everybody to understand that absolutely every totalitarian regime which is economically big enough will over-exercise itself. And it will over-exercise itself because there is no democratic control. And the moment is when they realize that their might is not going to grow. That is plateau. I may be describing Russia, but I may also be describing China. So in order not to be caught out and thrown out, of that market again, we need to start planning now all together. And as I say so, America, Canada, Quad nations, Five Eye nations, everybody who is democratic or is willing to be part of that coalition long term, they need to participate together. Come on, China's always going to be a middle income country because there is no freedom. And only free people are productive enough to create kind of higher income levels. That is a plateau. That is a dangerous phase. Let's deal with it today.
Well, thank you again, Kersti. And it's been great serving with you on the Global Tech Security Commission. And we're really looking forward to the great things that we're doing. It's really going to make a huge impact in the free world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.